What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to do another stock pick of the week, and this week we're going to talk about Nano-Dimension. This was brought to me by one of my subscribers, so I had a subscriber ask me if I could go over NNDM. He says that he just looked into them and their market cap is now 1.96 billion, so I'll go over that. It was actually a lot less this time last year, so not only has their market cap increased considerably, but they've also increased their cash on hand position considerably. So they're up to 1.5 billion on hand. And this was a company that at this time last year wasn't sure they were going to be able to make it through 2020. So that's just something, to be considerate of. And he says, like, that's insane. CEO might be making acquisitions this week. Huge short squeeze potential as well. I think the stock is going to fly. Would love to hear from you. So thanks for the comment. Thank you for that request. I really enjoy when people let me know what they want me to cover, because that gives me kind of something to look into, and it's actually really interesting because I don't know, I'd never looked into NNDM like huge before. It was always something I had seen day trading, and I saw it make big moves kind of the end of last year, but I didn't really know much about the actual company. I knew they were into 3D printing and that was kind of their main play, but now that I've done a little bit more research into them, it's a really interesting play. So you can see how their investor presentation here, and on their website they basically just explain that they are a 3D printing circuit company. So they look to build circuit systems and electronic systems using 3D printing technology. So they have different products, as you can see here, all of them being in the 3D printing realm. So this is their Nano-Dimension Dragonfly LDM system. It is a one-stop solution for agile hardware development and innovative circuit design across a wide array of industries. It empowers companies to securely control entire development cycles through in-house additive manufacturing of PCBs and non-planar electronics with speed and precision, while reducing R&D costs with its lights out digital manufacturing printing technology. This is the industry's only comprehensive manufacturing printing platform for round-the-clock 3D printing of electronic circuitry. So like I said, they're mainly focused on 3D printing for electronic circuits, but they obviously can branch out to other things as well. So here's kind of a little breakdown of some of the things that they can create. So these are all things that work with circuit boards, things for, looking all kinds of electrical systems, and this is kind of where they break down where these things are applicable. So these things go across a wide array of sectors, including research, aerospace, defense, medical, automotive, and industrial. So all of these sectors can be successfully integrated into the 3D modeling system, in which they can then generate products for all of these industries through their 3D printing technology, right? And they have a little video here. They go over their kind of technology and the ability to create vast amounts of electronic systems. And if we go over to their investor presentation here, a lot of this I'm not going to try to understand, or I shouldn't say try. I'm not going to try to make it seem like I know what they're talking about, because in many instances I really don't. I really don't understand a lot of it. I'm not a huge computer IT tech person, but I do understand the potential for what this can offer companies and entire industries that are looking to find another cheaper way to access parts and or design the parts themselves for the systems that they need, right? So as they say here, they show you like their system, they show you the things that they can create, they give you a sense of the kind of materials they're using. Like I said, I don't really understand what a lot of this is. So like it says here, just one step manufacturing, no need for etching, pressing, and electroplating. So this is simplifying the kind of manufacturing process for a lot of these electronic circuits. They are able to be created a lot easier with this technology. Stacked ICs have a higher circuit density than traditional PCBs by allowing ICs to be mounted and interconnected on top of each other. So this is the idea that it's more precise too. So the computer can do something a lot more precise than a human can. So the idea that 3D printing technology will not only be cheaper. It will also be a superior product to what the by hand manufacturing is able to produce. And like they say here, you know, they kind of have their idea that it's quickly they have the ability to expand their 3D scales. No need for drilling. It's kind of easy peasy. So their AME machines, controlled by AI algorithms, produce electronic devices by simultaneous 3D injection of dielectric and conductive materials to fabricate within hours high-performance electronic devices. And like things like sensors, antennas, capacitors, converters for unique geometries and complex devices. We develop and produce proprietary consumables, chemical inks in our AME machines. All are mission critical and economical for our customers. So this is the thing, right? Like the people that they can market this to are infinite. But when we look at kind of the main position, we're talking about defense industries. We're talking about tech industries. We're talking about like EV vehicle industries, you know, which is obviously in tech, but just the potential is so astronomical. Even like they said, medical, research, all of these things are going to benefit from this kind of technology. And like they say, like they have the first market advantage. They're one of the leading companies. They have more than 36 patent applications and over a dozen granted patents. They are creating approximately 66 systems worldwide, the only technology that converts digitally electronic circuits into functional high-performance devices, increasing recurring revenue of proprietary conducive dielectric materials. Strong cash position, which I went over, they $1.5 billion now. So this was in January 2021 when they put that out, saying they had $990 million on hand, and now they have upwards of $1.5 billion. And they say no debt. And they have $80 million invested in R&D over this next 6 years. And the thing I want to go over is kind of what they've done in the last year and what they've been able to do with their company and their stock price. And you know, it has been through, I'm just going to kind of scroll through the rest of this because it's stuff that isn't entirely critical for you to understand, because it really, like, a lot of this is very technical, and for me it's really just understanding that there are markets and that they have a revolutionary or a very high competitive product that can compete, and they have, like they said, one of the best and one of the cheapest products that they can offer. So all of this, you know, like I said, is really just stuff that is telling you, you know, like this is the 3D printing market. So there's the analysis of where it's going to be. So the 3D printing market will be worth $2.3 billion in 2029, and will be dominated by the professional PCB prototype market segment. The market for professional PCB prototyping is currently growing very rapidly, almost entirely due to market-leading Nano-Dimension, and has already overtaken the consumer and education. This growth will slow, but this market segment will become the largest by 2020. And this is the thing, right? Like they said, it will become the largest by 2020, and obviously this was ID Tech X talking in 2019, and it already has shown that now it has surpassed that, right? And like they show you the growth here, it just gets exponential. And these are three different analysts putting forth the same conclusion, right? So they estimate the same thing. They say 2.4 billion by 2025, so that's 4 years faster, and they think that it will reach a all right, so it doesn't really say like a total, but they basically say that right now it's valued at 137 million in 2017 and expected to expand at a rate of 44.46% year over year, but from 2018 to 2026, reaching 3,915 million by the end of the forecast period. So basically more than what they're forecasting, but still exponential, right? And that's the thing. This is a very, very innovative industry. It's a very, very disruptive industry, and it's very new. So this is why this is going to be a very, very big thing for the next few years. It's a very high growth stock. It's a tech stock, but it's also a growth stock, and this is why when you have these kind of I wouldn't call it speculative, but these kind of early innovative technologies that people don't really understand, they have a lot of controversy, and that's why they have a lot of volatility in their share price, which is why you've seen this stock go from like $7 to like, it was like $20 or something, and then back to $7. But what we need to realize is the overall strategy and the overall idea of what's happening with this company and where they're planning to go in the future, which is why you can see here the defense industry and the kind of the different partnerships they have throughout the world. It's not just in the U.S. Obviously, they have the U.S. Department of Defense, Harris Technologies, or TM Technology or whatever. And then they have in Europe, they have all kinds of partnerships with dozens of companies, and the same within China and in Southeast Asia and in Australia, University of Sydney. They have connections throughout the world, throughout the three biggest markets in the world, Southeast Asia, Europe, and North America. And they are a vastly growing company that is offering something that not a lot of other companies are able to offer. There are a few other companies, and I will go over them in a second, but these guys are the cream of the crop when it comes to their technology and what they're able to put out in the market compared to their competitors. And the other thing is that China, like Asia is one of their biggest markets. Like I just went over, they have a lot of contracts with companies in Asia, and Asia is probably one of the largest growing segments for this kind of industry, right? And like I said, I'm just kind of going through all of this. It's a very long investor presentation, but basically they just go over everything in here about their product, what they're offering, and what they're going to be able to do for companies that are looking for kind of a way to get cheaper and superior technology. So that's the end there. As you can see here, they're predicting extreme growth, and the value for their materials is just going to go up exponentially over the foreseeable future. So that's kind of what they're trying to break down in that report. And what I'm going to go over here is I'm going to just go over this report real quick, and then I'm going to go over the stock price and give you guys some price predictions, or at least some support and resistance levels and some areas of where you guys should look at the stock and consider being a buyer or a seller. But at the same time, obviously it's just my opinion. It's never trading advice, so always do your own research before you buy any sort of stock. But let's go over this report real quick and talk about how Nano-Dimension has gone from a tiny company that was barely, very bleak outlooks, thinking they might not even be able to survive 2020, to a company that is now sitting with $1.5 billion in the bank and a market cap that is in the hundreds of millions. So they talk about here in this, basically they're going to break down exactly how this happened. So they say here that the company didn't seem like much at the start of 2020. It offered an intriguing technology, but it was seemingly narrow use on cash. So they had very little cash. And that stock had done little since going down. Ever since they came out in 2016, the stock basically just went down to below $3. So when you look at the balance sheet, they closed 2019 with $3.7 million in cash. It burned through $13 million that year, right? So obviously at that kind of rate, burning through $13 million, that's basically 1.1 million a month. Basically, you have 3 or 4 months cash on hand. So the company at the end of 2019 was basically sitting with about 4 or 5 months cash on hand, and after that, possible bankruptcy. So it filed for U.S. Securities Exchange Commission in March 2020, including a so-called going concern warning, the kind that precedes many corporate bankruptcies. So this was their going concern, was the fact that they only had enough money to survive another 3 or 4 months in order to keep the lights on in their facilities and to keep their employees with actual paychecks coming in. So what we realize here is that investors reacted accordingly by the start of 2020. Nano-Dimension's market capitalization was barely 10 million. So it was getting beaten down. They were not doing very much. They were losing money, and they weren't able to have a product that was able to get enough, people to say, hey, this is such a great product. We need to support this. We need to invest in this at the same time, back before the big coronavirus pandemic, you had a lot of people that were still very, very hesitant to get into tech. People did not want to support big tech companies, even semiconductor companies, because they saw them as risky. They weren't necessarily going to be as big as they have become in the last 2 years because of the necessity. Everything has been forced to go into a virtual world. Even those people that refused to accept the virtual world before have been forced to go into the virtual world, which has created this need for more and more tech. So that's why you see a growth for Nano-Dimension, as we can see here, that in December of 2019, they hired a chief executive officer, Yoav Stern. The company talked up its experience as a turnover executive. So this guy was coming in to change and get this out of trouble, because at the beginning of the pandemic, like they said, they probably weren't looking like they were going to survive. So in April 2021, like they say here, they transitioned from a cash position of 3.7 million at the beginning of 2020 to a cash position of 1.5 billion right now in April 2021. So the stock price has more than tripled to just above $8 from down below $3 that it was at the same time at the start of 2020. Less than 2 months ago, it traded at more than twice as high. So towards the end of 2020, obviously, we can see this thing shot up. And we can see here, so this is the NNDM stock price down here. This is the daily chart. So you can see back when they had their reverse split, back here, they were trading at just over a few dollars, and they got a reverse split. So basically the company was issuing shares, trying to raise money, and this is something they've done consistently over the past year. That's actually been a very successful venture because the stock price has consistently gone up every time they've done this. So what you can see is that obviously from the IPO, it was up towards $80 and it just basically crashed. So this thing, after 2016, when it IPO'd, it basically just crashed all the way down to 50 cents. Right? And then you had this, after the stock reversed, they had the reverse split, it bounced all the way up to $18. And then it reversed, back down to 6, bounced back to 11, and now back down towards 750, which it's been sitting at for quite a while. So with NNDM, what we will see is a lot of hesitation until we can see some sort of consistency. But right now we're sitting at a clear support level at $7. So keep that in consideration. But we'll go over what they're talking about here in this article and why it was able to go from less than $1 all the way to $20 throughout 2020. So the reason the market cap is up more than 200 times, so it went from 10 million to 2 billion in the last year, and the share price less than 4x, and the share price rose less than well, anyway, so basically the reason why the market cap and the share price skyrocketed is that Nano-Dimension had issued a staggering amount of stock. Oh, sorry. I get what he's saying there. Sorry. Confused that there. But what he's saying here is that the reason that the market cap is up more than 200 times and the share price less than 4 times, so the reason why the market cap went up so high but the share price didn't rise as high, is because a lot of this was happening through reverse splits and through issuing shares so that they could basically raise money. So at the end of 2019, the company had 209 million ordinary shares, or about 4.2 million adjusted for a 1-for-50 reverse split last year. The reverse split applied only to the ordinary shares. So at the moment, the share count is past 250 million. So in the past year, they went from having 209 million to, at the current moment, having 250 million. So they issued about 41 million new shares in the past year, right? Nano-Dimension has done well with the offerings, though. Like I said, like they have put out a lot of offerings, but the share price has kind of responded well every time, bouncing back and making new highs after they go through reverse splits. a lot of times this has a lot to do with day trading, because a lot of people that are day trading are looking for these kind of smaller cap, low float stocks that they can kind of pump up. So a lot of times that's why they get pumped. Might not necessarily be anything to do with the company, but with this company, there were positive things that they were doing that was able to get them to the position they're at today. So as we go down, they talk about, compared to the other companies like 3D Systems, stock ticker DDD, and Stratasys, stock ticker SSYS, have soared in 2021. While those companies play in different markets, NNDM might have a bigger edge. Existing manufacturing of the printed circuit boards made by Nano-Dimension equipment is heavily concentrated in Asia. And that's the thing, like a lot of these other companies are more focused in the US, whereas with Nano-Dimension, they are focused more globally, and particularly in the Asian markets, which are the fastest growing markets. And obviously in North America, we rely on a lot of our tech from Asia. So it's kind of a win-win for Nano-Dimension being in that market. And like I said, the pandemic gave them a real boost. Before that, they were not sure they were going to even make it through 2020 without a serious restructuring. The company said so itself. And obviously today, with 1.5 million in the bank, the story has been very much de-risked, as they say. So the other big thing here is the fact of what Cathie Wood has been able to do. Well, I shouldn't say has been able to do, but has done by investing in the stock, has brought some serious attention to this name by pointing out that this company has some serious disruptive technology. Because, you know, with Cathie Wood, she loves her disruptive technology. So she's pointing out how when you look at this company, they used to be, you know, calling themselves a 3D printed circuit board company, but today they broaden themselves to be viewed as a 3D printed technology device company. And one of the important things about the Nano-Dimension story is their contracts they are winning from defense agencies. We also look for where the defense is putting their money. We always look for where defense is putting their money, Wood said. She has been very impressed with new management at Nano-Dimension and points out that the founder is still very involved. ARC owns over 5.8 million shares of Nano-Dimension, worth $45.8 million. And their ARC Autonomous Technology and Robotics ETF owns 7.1 million shares, worth about $55.4 million. So Nano-Dimension, like they say here, represents about 0.6% of ARC-W and about 1.6% of ARC-Q. So if you did want to get into, you know, a lot of the tech sector, or get into a stock like NNDM, but you didn't want to actually buy the physical stock, you could buy the ARC ETF, and it would give you the same kind of stock, well, at least the same exposure to these type of stocks, and obviously you would own a little bit of NNDM at the same time. And they say here at the bottom that NNDM is ARC's largest stake in the 3D sector, some 6 times the holdings in DDD and SSYS. So that just shows their faith in the company. So Cathie Wood obviously having a position 6 times higher in a company like NNDM over a company like DDD and SSYS just shows you their confidence in the name and their faith that the company will be, you know, seriously profitable in the near future. So the question is then, is that good enough news? And then they point out here how Stern has said repeatedly that the plan is to use the cash for acquisitions, but it's unclear why the company needed to sell this much stock. Nano-Dimension generated less than $4 million in revenue in 2020. The pandemic was a factor, of course, but even 2019 sales were less than $8 million. Plus $1.5 billion in acquisition spend hardly seems necessary for acquisitions that are complementary to a business that size. For that spend, the actual Nano-Dimension business seemingly would wind up secondary to whatever businesses were brought in. Here's another question. Should NNDM stock be considered overvalued, given that Stern and his company are acting like it is? They've been enormously aggressive with offerings in 2021, raising $830 million at a weighted average price just above $11. In fact, Stern said in November that the company had enough cash for its acquisition strategy. It's sold more than $1 billion of stock since. So think about that, right? Like the company is constantly saying, "Oh, we have enough cash, we have enough cash," and then they're constantly raising money. They're constantly selling more shares and constantly diluting their share price to raise money for acquisitions they say they need when they've already said back in November that they had enough cash to, you know. So it just begs the question, right? But it hasn't made a deal, according to Stern, that's because of the rise of SPACs, special purpose acquisition companies. Companies are completely in la la land, as much as they believe their value is. If the sector has gone nuts, what does that mean for NNDM stock? Admittedly, that question is somewhat less pertinent given the sharp pullback over the past 2 months, and it's possible Nano-Dimension creates that $600 million in value through smart mergers and acquisitions and/or growth in the legacy business. Still, this is a business the market thought was worth $10 million just 16 months ago. It's a business that hasn't yet succeeded, and it has $1.5 billion in cash to spend, which truly is a double-edged sword. Certainly, Nano-Dimension's position has changed dramatically over the past 16 months, but it's where the company sits 16 months from now that matters. Personally, I'll almost certainly be on the sidelines until then, but I'll admit to being fascinated as to how this all plays out. So this is written by Vince Martin, and he says he does not have a share position or any stock in the company currently. But like I pointed out in this article, and like he kind of has pointed out there, we need to realize what this company is. And that is currently a speculative play. It is a high growth stock. It is a stock that has potential, has serious potential. But the problem is that today it needs to prove that potential. When we look at its financials, they're not very impressive. And that's kind of one of the things that we need to really be considerate of. Sure, they've been able to generate a ton of cash through different, product stock offerings or through different forms of diluting their share price. But what are they actually doing in terms of their revenue and in terms of are they making money, right? And that's the big thing. And a lot of these I really don't like to go through because they're very, very convoluted and very hard to understand. But it's almost easier just to go right here because they give you a much, much better breakdown. But you can see that for the year of 2019, they had 7.1 million, right? Which was a huge increase from 2016 and from previous years, right? But currently, and it's still not updated. This is not updated. So this is not great, right? But anyway, what you got to realize is that the company does not have a ton of money. They haven't been able to generate a ton of revenue yet from their products. They have a great product offering. They have a great disruptive technology that could potentially be revolutionary, that could potentially lead towards this $2.9 million windfall that they see as potential. The biggest issue here is, can they follow through? Can they continue to generate contracts with defense agencies, not only in Asia, but in the US as well? They have to, kind of like Palantir will have to, prove that they can sustain their growth. And that is something that I think Palantir has kind of done with consistent, different consistent partnerships, consistently getting contracts from government and different defense agencies. This is what's going to be exponential, right? You want to see those big players going back to these companies and showing that they're willing to put their money in some of these companies, right? So if NNDM can generate some serious contracts in the next few months, or we see like huge partnerships with, NASA or, maybe the Australian defense or, UK defense or any kind of defense industries, even in the US, North America, Europe, Asia, wherever it is, we're looking for them to get into these different sectors. If they start getting huge tech deals with companies in Asia, If you have a bunch of EV manufacturers that start going, hey, we can get all of our chips for a lot cheaper and a lot easier if we just go with a company like NNDM, that's kind of where you're going to see this company explode. Is we want to see if can they get consistent partnerships, can they get serious contracts in the next few months, and that's what's really going to establish them. Because like he explains in that article, their 1.5 billion on cash is a double-edged sword. It can cut both ways, because at one point it kind of gives you the confidence that maybe you can sustain, maybe you're okay, maybe you don't need to go out and fight for contracts or partnerships or whatever. But the big problem here is that 1.5 billion will go very quickly if they end up buying out a company, doing this and this, and they can't generate substantial revenue. Then they're going to be a failing company. No matter how great their technology is, they need to be able to generate substantial revenue. They haven't made more than 10 million in a quarter yet, and that's concerning. It's concerning because throughout 2020, as their cash position grew and as their share price skyrocketed and obviously was plummeted at various times through different reasons, for obviously reverse splits, through share selling and whatever drove the stock price down. Because you can see, like, it would come up and it would get faded, it would come up, it would get faded, it would come up, it would get faded, and then eventually it broke. It just started to break out, right? And you had this upward trend until it failed, and then it broke back down, and it really hasn't done anything since. And this is still, I would say, looking like a downward trend unless we can break back above 10 and hold, right? So that's what I'm going to go over real quick right now, is just some levels in this, and just give you guys something that you should think about if you're looking to get into NNDM, is understand these support levels and what they mean. So obviously $5 is a serious support level. It was resistance here. It would hit 5. It would get rejected. So this is resistance. As it breaks above the resistance, it turns into support. You can see here support, and after it breaks above that, it doesn't look back, right? So we see support in the 6/10s. So 5, 6, and then we've already broken below that support, right? So your next supports are 5 and 6. So currently what I might be looking at right now is this stock to go back down towards $5, towards more of that average kind of support level. And then once it hits 5, if we can get a move back up to the 750 and break above, because the way I look at this chart, it kind of looks like it's probably going to sell off over the next couple of days, just because it's had a consistent downward move and it hasn't really been able to break to new highs. It hasn't been able to reverse this trend. So until it's able to do that, we're going to still look for a downward move, probably, like I said, back down towards $5. And then you're going to want to look to get long, because that level of $5 is going to give you a big level of support. And like I said, this is a company that has extreme potential over the next 6 months if they can actually succeed in getting partnerships, in growing their revenue, in gaining, those $100 million contracts or whatever. Like if they come out with 1 or 2 $100 million contracts in the next 6 months, this stock will probably go to the moon. It will go back to 20. But they need to have those $100 million contracts. They need to have those big partnerships like Palantir was showing. That's one of the reasons why I'm still bullish on Palantir, even though it dipped and it started to look like it was going to give up the support level of 20. It held. And that's the big thing about understanding levels and understanding what you're looking to do. So with this, like I said, right now it is at a key critical support level. If it can hold this level and break back above this $9 level, then this trend will have reversed, right? And then we'll be looking for a long back up towards 15 for a break of this high, this 1150, and that's what you got to look at, is these are going to be your resistance levels, right? So if this breaks down here and breaks to this $5 level, I want to get long, and I want to hold through a break towards this 1150 level, obviously taking my first profits at 750 and looking to get the rest out at 9, or if it can break 9, hold towards this $12, and then we'll probably get a retracement, right? So that's my kind of overall look at this stock and what we might see over the next few months, if they're able to get successful partnerships, we're probably, and like I said, we're probably still going to see this thing dip over the next few days, probably the next week or two. We're going to see this thing dip back down to 7, maybe 6.50. If we can get $5, I think that's a very, very good level to be buying. Like I said, it's just my opinion. Never take it as trading advice. Always do your own research before you buy anything. But that's my thought process for this stock. Let's look at the daily chart for today. We can see that it's kind of been bouncing between this 730 and 770. Now it's starting to come down. So you had this little bounce off of this low, and now you're coming back towards the low. So that's why I say, like, it still looks negative. It still looks like this is going to sell off. So we might see a move back, like I said, towards 6, 5, 6. If you can get in those levels, I think it's a great stock. I think that it has big potential, but we need to wait and see what happens. If you're going to get in at 5 or 6, just know that if they're not able to put out significant partnerships in the next 6 months, if you're willing to hold for 6 months, this stock could go back down to $2. It could give up that $5, and then you're looking at a move back down towards $1, right? So we want to be considerate of that. We want to understand that it is a speculative play. It is a speculative play that has serious potential, but it needs to recognize that potential. It needs to show that it can be a big player and actually get people to support them in terms of big contracts from big government agencies, and that's what's going to drive this thing to new highs. Thanks for watching, guys. That's going to be it on NNDM. Thanks for the recommendation. I hope my breakdown of the stock was good for you. Like I said, I don't fully understand everything about the company, but from what I have been able to research and from that article that I kind of broke down for you, and from what I've gotten from kind of the ARC position, there's a lot of upside potential, and it is a disruptive technology that should be kind of considered if you want to get into that space. But like I said, if you want to get into the space as well and you don't want to be as risked towards a stock like NNDM, you can just get into the ARC ETF, and that will give you exposure to not only this stock, but dozens of other stocks in the same sector. And that is something to definitely consider if you're thinking about buying shares in NNDM. And that's it for that, guys. Thanks for watching, and please come back for another video, another stock pick of the week. I hope you guys had a great weekend. Hopefully you guys had a great day trading today. I was green. Hopefully you guys were green. Please be back at me with another video. Hopefully we'll do another breakdown. If you guys have any stocks you want me to go over, I keep meaning to do a video on AMD. It's going to be very similar to this, but more in the semiconductor, and obviously AMD is a proven company. So, you know, if you want my recommendation, or if you want my breakdown of AMD, buy it. Just buy it. That's about it. Just buy it. But I might do a video just breaking it down anyway. But at these levels, you can see, you know, I don't know if you can see because my thing might be in the way, but if I move it over here, you see down here, you can see that, where are you? AMD, $79, right? So this thing was at 92 a couple months ago. And you're talking about a company that, for growth and for proven potential, I don't think there's better than companies like AMD. But that's just my opinion. It's not trading advice. Do not buy anything without doing your own research, guys, without doing all of the necessary research and necessary preparation before you look to get into anything. So thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Please give me some insights if you guys have anything to add to this video, or if you guys have any other thoughts on NNDM, or if you guys have any, you know, price predictions. Please put them in the comments below. Please like, subscribe, and I'll be back at you with another video soon, guys. Have a good one.